Are you looking to get into this fast-paced logistics environment as a freight broker agent? What qualities, what skills do you need? Let's find out.
Welcome back to the channel. So today you may have heard about becoming a freight broker agent. Maybe you heard about a freight brokerage. Maybe you're thinking about joining someone or starting your own brokerage. There's a lot of topics to discuss around that, but today we're going to focus specifically on what skills, what qualities, previous skills, and training is ideal to have if you're going to enter into logistics as a freight broker agent or as a freight broker. So let's start this way. Let's look at a typical freight broker job description. This may not be exact, but it'd be something similar. So here's an example. Seeking a freight broker representative. Within this position, you'll be identifying, sourcing, developing strong relationships with service providers. This position requires an energetic, strategically focused sales achiever that enjoys a latitude of working independently. This position includes a 100% base commission opportunity. Candidates must have brokering and logistical experience. We're going to address that issue because there's always that gap. We are seeking a well-qualified candidate that understands and has a strong knowledge of the transportation logistics. There is no base pay, just commission structure, and must reside in whatever state or province that you live in. So some of the requirements that you may see listed. Cold calling skills. Looking for a candidate who has an established book of business. Negotiating price shipment rates with the shipper and carriers. Resolve logistical issues to ensure the carrier satisfaction and retention of those carriers. You want to avoid the one and dones. Experienced negotiator and salesperson. Call shippers, carriers daily to capture or through email available equipment and pricing opportunities. Must have a high-speed internet connection. Must be comfortable making multiple outbound cold calls. That's initially going to be important. You don't always have to make cold calls, but I'll have future videos where we discuss it. But just the idea that you have to be comfortable being able to call and reach out to people either through email, LinkedIn. There's a variety of ways, but you have to be willing to do so. Ensure timely process of customer freight shipments. Previous sales and or customer service experience preferred, demonstrated problem solving, critical thinking, and decision making abilities, proven ability to work independently and remain on task with minimal supervision, entrepreneurial spirit with growth mindset, detail oriented and possessions organizational skills, 100% work remote, uncapped earning potential, proficient with Microsoft Office, excellent problem solving skills. So far, does that sound like you? How many of those boxes can you check off that you're comfortable doing? What's the typical daily responsibilities? Generating leads and attracting new prospects and developing a sales pipeline. Identifying and selecting reputable and safe carriers for freight services. So that's part of your job, is to match the proper carrier for your customers' needs. Providing customers with shipping rates. Booking orders with carriers. Collaborating with shippers, carriers. Keeping accurate records of relevant activities. You really have to be a detailed oriented person in the world of freight brokering. Updating customers on the status of their shipments and assisting with other inquiries. So compensation, how much money can you make in the world of freight brokering? Well, that's going to vary based on the mode, your commission structure. There's a lot to that. But the point I want to bring here, if you're new to the world of logistics and you're thinking about becoming a freight broker agent or a freight brokerage, number one thing to understand is if you've been working for some years and you're used to a regular every 2-week pay from your employer, if you join the world of logistics, those days are gone. Most freight brokerages will pay their agents either weekly or every 2 weeks. So similar, but the amount of money you make is only what you earned. So however many loads you book is how much money you get paid. So basically, the idea that I want to bring here is that when you become a freight broker agent in the world of logistics, you have the backing of a brokerage, which is helpful, but just know when you come into this world that it's 100% commission. No vacation pay, no pension, no healthcare plan, no car allowances. If you want a car, if you have to travel to visit customers, do sales calls, you need your own vehicle and you can use it as a tax write-off. But the key point to understand is that when you enter the world of logistics as a freight broker, if you go out and open up your own broker and get all your own authority for it, or you join an existing brokerage, there's a few opportunities out there that maybe you'll get hired as a employee in the United States, W-2 in Canada, an employee. But majority of freight brokerages are structured that they are 1099 or independent contractors. So it's 100% commission. So If you come in with no book of business, but you have contacts, you need to budget yourself for 4 to 6 months. It could be 3 if you're have some really good connections and you're able to start moving freight sooner. But I would suggest that you have 4 to 6 month plan that you may not make any income when you first start out because you're focusing on building your book of business. You're going to be reaching out to clients, making the connections, and then earning the right that you can quote their freight and so forth. So let's just get into the qualities that we're looking for. So what skills and qualities do you already have? Of all the things I've listed so far, where are you at? So where do you see yourself fitting into the world of logistics? Now, keep in mind, this is kind of top level as far as the qualities. Your mode that you may service, if you're a generalist freight agent, or are you going to be very specific? Are you just going to do reefer freight, flatbed freight, dry van freight? Depending on the mode and the book of business and the customers you have, you may need specialized, like say you want to do dangerous goods, you may need additional training. If you want to do over-dimensional, you need to understand how permits and wide loads and how pilot vehicles work. And there's a whole aspect of training there. So depending on what mode you go into will determine the specific skills you may require. But the qualities I'm about to present on the next slide is what generally most freight broker agents should have. So first off, you need to be outgoing, have an outgoing personality. Just be willing to talk to people and network with people. You're going to do that through phone. You're going to do that through email, maybe in person, and through other social media outlets. People skills, that's essential. You don't have to be a super bubbly fake salesperson. You need to be you and your style. Everyone's got different styles, but you need to be at least willing to be a people person. Next, you need to be goal-minded. And why goal-minded? As I mentioned, this is a 100% commission business. Like I said, there's a few opportunities out there where maybe you can join a brokerage where they pay you a salary or a base pay plus commission, and they train you, and then eventually you go out on your own. And so you need to have that ability that you can be goal-minded to set targets. And that's what's really a quality that would be great, that if you work in a job where, say you were just the driver, or you worked in a warehouse as a warehouse employee, but if you've worked in a position where maybe you started out, kind of at entry level at a company, but then you got a chance to become the manager, the supervisor of a department, where the company, you had to set either employee budgets like payroll budgets, or you had to set targets for productivity, like you had to get so much done in a day, or you had to achieve something. If you have that ability that you can set targets and achieve targets, and you have a history of doing that, it's going to set you above all other broker agents and your competition because you have that skill set. So that's why a lot of times they say they want to see sales experience, because in sales, even if you're just an entry-level salesperson, you usually have to hit targets in order to get your commissions. But it's not required. You don't need to have a salesperson. You could be a nurse. You could be a welder. You could be a teacher and come into the logistics industry, because everyone's got different sticks. But the whole idea is that, if you have goal-minded, negotiating skills, persistence is key. If you're a person that, if someone says no, or you get frustrated easy, not saying you can't be successful in this industry, but it's going to be harder. If you're a person that when you get no means yes, and it's one step closer to the next yes, that's the attitude that you need in the freight broker industry, because you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get doors shut, and you're going to have, say once you finally get the freight, you now have to contend with the carriers. Carriers are going to decline your freight. They don't like your rate, different factors at play. And so there's a lot moving on. There's a lot of moving parts. But the key here is persistence, because you're going to win customers. You may lose some, but hopefully you build the whole goal of my little presentation here and this video today is to share with you some key qualities, that kind of a gut check, that to say, where are you now in your life? What skills have you acquired since high school? Do you need a business degree or any form of post-secondary college, university to come into freight logistics? No. But will it be helpful? Yes. Simply because it gives you some bigger understanding. Like if you took some business schooling or something, you might understand a little bit more about the economics and also how companies who are hiring freight brokerages to help them move their freight understand their process. That's part of the key, is if you can better understand the supply chain, like within a company, like you got the production, the salespeople, then you got your production team, how they work, and then how they overlap to the buyers, and then how the buyers then turn that into putting out their freight for tender, and then how the brokerages come into there, and then how the process of, once you go through this, you actually get to a customer's opportunity that you can bid on the freight, and then a buyer issues you a PO, and then how it works from there. Like, the more that you understand the supply chain and how to adapt your communication styles to different parties, it will be helpful. If you're a person, like, even if you were just an entry-level warehouse person, when there's a problem, did you just go to your supervisor and say, hey, I got a problem? Or were you the person, if you're a person that when there's a problem, whether regardless if you're, an upper management person or an entry-level position, but you looked at the situation, came up with a solution that seems viable, and you had a reason for it, and you presented it to your supervisor, where you came in saying, there was this problem, here's how I'm going to suggest to fix it. Does that work for you? You're not just complaining, you're actually a solutions person. If you're that person that you're comfortable dealing with issues, coming up with solutions that are win-win for all parties involved, you're going to be 2 steps ahead of most broker agents out there. So the next skills, communication, written, verbal. If you are comfortable with your communication, written and verbal, that will be super, super helpful coming in. And that's why, at least if you've worked in a company, doesn't matter, like I said, it could be in the medical world all the way to the welding world, but if you work somewhere where you had a chance to work in the back office and be part where you're sitting around the boardroom where there's different parties and understanding how they all interlap, the more that you understand how typical businesses work with different departments, that's going to help you set apart. And that's where, sometimes having some post-secondary college can help to get some of that knowledge, but also working in different environments can be helpful. But the next thing is technology. So because you're a freight broker agent working from home, truck drivers drive the freight that we book with them. But you, as a freight broker agent, you are driving with your computer. It's your job to master how a computer works. So how comfortable are you with Microsoft Office, with Google, creating a Google slide or Docs or Google Sheets? Can you create an Excel spreadsheet with formulas? Can you create a PowerPoint presentation? Can you write up a document, edit it, modify it? How fast is that? When it comes to data entry, have you ever worked with a CRM, customer revenue relationship management tool, which, if you know how to use a CRM, you'll be a natural to catch on to use a TMS, transportation management software. So there's a lot of different tools at play, but it's a matter of how well. So if you're not comfortable with your computer skills, I would suggest go on YouTube, go somewheres, maybe your local school somewheres offer some courses, but YouTube will have a lot. When you open up your email, are you comfortable? Do you know what all the little buttons are to get the most efficient use of your email tool? Same thing when you open up your Word editor. Are you comfortable in all the little buttons and how to modify and format things? So if you're not, you have to say to yourself, okay, how can I get my computer skills up and running? And if computer skills are intimidating for you, it's not the end of the world. You can still be very successful, because if you have great personality and people skills, you may have to muddle through it and have the time, but just know if you have great people skills and negotiating skills, but your computer skills are weaker, just know that you need to work on that. That's an area of focus. So what can you do to get you better? Whether it's taking courses, etc., but you need to practice. And we expect truck drivers to be efficient and know how to use the trucks. Well, our customers, our drivers, expect us to know how to use computers to manage their freight. And then that ties into willingness to learn. This industry is so massive. You got so many modes, from intermodal, flatbed, dry van, LTL, partial freight, over-dimensional freight, and then you get into international freight forwarding, which is a whole separate requirements there. But each of those modes have a lot of learning. So, and there's a lot of regulations and things to understand. So your willingness to learn and staying open-minded to constantly learn will set you above all other freight broker agents, so that you can build a super successful book of business. How organized are you at your current workplace? You have to be super organized, because you're juggling a lot. When you first start out as a freight broker agent, you have no customers, but then you start making cold calls and making connections through different means. It doesn't mean, when I use the term cold calls, it could be warm leads, but you call someone and they say, yeah, we're interested, but right now we're in the midst of making some changes. Call us back in a month. Okay. So you have to have a way to track and know how to understand how to manage. Okay, put a reminder that you're going to call in a month. And then same thing, you're going to get all these going on. Also, you need to do quotes. And it's a quote for a job. Say it's now I'm doing this video here in February of 2023, and say you quote a customer for a project starting in April or June. So you have to make the quotes, and you have to have plans thinking about what the marketplace is going to do, but you have to make notes to follow up on that quote. Then once you actually start building up your book of business and you have one load, well, one load could turn into where all of a sudden in a year from now, when you wake up, you're managing, on your load, on your TMS software, you got 20 loads in progress, plus you're quoting new freight as well. And then you got the loads that are delivering that have to get invoiced. So when you're a freight broker agent, you may just think, oh, I'm a freight broker agent, but you are playing multiple roles. You are playing the role of a salesperson. You're playing operations, and you got financing, because your brokerage does the back office, but you have to confirm final charges in there. So you need to be detail oriented, that you're making notes along the way for each shipment, every interaction that you have with a new client, a new customer, that you're not just sloughing off and not putting on a sticky, but you actually have an organized system in which you put detailed notes about every transaction and situation, who gave you approvals for the freight. So if there's questions and issues that 6 months, 3 months from now, that your accounting office comes back and says, the customer is saying that they didn't approve this, or they did, that you have the documentation from someone that you can pull up in a matter of moments, that yes, so-and-so from this department, here's the email that they approved it. And then you bring that back to them. So you got to have that detailed business there. The other note about getting an understanding or a little bit about freight broker agency is that you do reduce the risk as far as running everything, but just know as a freight broker agent, there still is risks involved. Meaning, I mentioned a plan 4 to 6 months of no income till you get the freight moving. The other thing to be aware of, and you have to read your contracts if you join a brokerage, and also if you create your own brokerage, here's something you have to think about and what risk you're willing to take. And that's where the goal-minded, you have to be a bit of an entrepreneur to go into the world of freight brokering, because you're working independently. So if you're used to working with a company, know that sure, you may join a brokerage, but you have a home office. You're alone. Yes, you can call the office, and maybe a couple times a year you might travel to the office and visit them, and you might interact with other agents within the brokerage, but generally you're alone throughout the day unless you build up a team. So first off, do you like to work alone? Are you okay with the variability of income until you establish yourself? And then the risks. And where the risk lies with a freight broker agency is that, let's say there's a load, there's driver detention. The shipper declines to pay it, but the carrier has justification for it. You might have to pay for that, which means that it reduces your revenue on that load. So you're taking a loss. And what if there's a claim where there clearly was damages by the carrier, and the carrier, you're battling it out, and you may have to pay extra on something? Or there's other issues, like say, for example, you made a typo, you made an administrative error where, say you have a customer, they have multiple branches, and you accidentally gave them a different branch 100 miles away, and that driver drove that 100 miles. Now you have to get him to come back. That was not the customer's fault nor the carrier's fault. It was your own. So you're going to have to pay the carrier to do that. So there is risks involved. Also, as a freight broker agent, you have to have a little bit of money set aside, because you are paying for your own internet. You may have to pay for your own phone system. If you want to do any customer marketing, if you want to order pens, shirts, other marketing material, attend conferences, visit customers. So anything that you need to purchase to build your business. If you want a lot of freight brokerages, they have a company website, but they also offer that you can set up your own specific agent website, so you can promote yourself, what skills, what modes that you're focusing on, and bring your customers there. So there's costs there involved, and you got to buy sometimes, the freight brokerage may offer software, but there might be additional software based on your book of business that you need that the brokerage does not offer. So you have to pay for some of that. So you are running a small little business. So first off, what are the qualities do you have any of these qualities that I've listed? And also, are you business minded? You are entering into the world, unless you get hired as a W-2 or an employee where they're paying a base plus salary. If you're not prepared for that, if you go independent, just know it's like running a small business. So be ready for that. How many of these skills you have? If you have all the check boxes, then you can get the ball rolling. But I suggest, if you're thinking about entering the world of freight broker agency, reach out to someone that's currently an agent, find out about it. Call some brokerages, talk to them about it. If you're thinking about getting your own brokerage, that's a whole nother thing, because you're setting it all up. But again, do your research. The whole purpose of today's video was I want to give you with your eyes wide open, so you're coming into this industry that you're not going to be blindsided and disappointed. This industry is fantastic. We need high-skilled people to help bridge that gap between the customers and the carriers to get freight and help connect them. And if you have these qualities and you can bring them and bring the level, continue in this logistics industry, you can have a great career. But just know that the initial training can be hard depending on what qualities and skills you're coming in with. So hopefully this video helps you out. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below in the comments. If you like the video, like it. I'm not going to force you to. That's your choice. Subscribe if you think my content is good, and share it out if you like. So welcome to the bonus section of this video. So basically, I just want to kind of summarize. I had made the other video kind of going through the key qualities, but just kind of a quick little summary for that. So just to show you here, I'll bring this up here. There we go. So 10 skills needed to be a successful freight broker agent. We talked a little bit here, but just to kind of summarize and put it in perspective, let's see if I'll move myself up here. So get myself away there. So we got, I mentioned before, people skills, negotiation skills, organizational skills, and that's for organizing your time, your paperwork, your computer, your files. Management skills, that comes into managing your workload, managing people, the carriers, the multiple people within your customers. And there's so many people involved in moving parts in the world of freight broker agent, and I'll do some separate videos to discuss some of the parties to be aware of. Strategy skills. You as a freight broker agent, it's your responsibility to build your book of business. So you have to be strategic. What modes are you focusing on? What customers you're going after? Are you going after smaller businesses, or are you trying to go after, publicly traded, big Fortune 500 companies? Each of them have their challenges, but your skill set and your strategy will kind of lead you to where to go, because dealing with a Fortune 500 company is much different than dealing with a local, smaller business. What's your ability to grow your business? Basically, what's your background? If you're, goal driven and you're focused and you're persistent, you don't necessarily have to be a salesperson. As long as you're persistent, whatever you've done in the past and you have that drive, you'll grow this business. It's just a matter of that you need that persistency. Networking skills. How comfortable are you entering a room and talking to people? You don't have to be fake. We want you to be you, but your comfort levels to go up and shake someone's hand and have a conversation, and through different means, it could be social, email, phone, live. Logistics planning skills. Again, you don't need to have those coming in. If you have a good mentor, someone who teaches you the process and how to manage the mode in which or the modes that you're working in, that you need to understand that and how all the parties work, because you're that central hub, right? Once you get into the logistics business, be clear about this. You are the hub. You got yourself in the middle. You got your customer on one side and you got the carrier on the other side. So you are that central hub, and you have to take all the communication and make sure that you understand the customer's requirements and convey that to the carrier in a concise way, and making sure that that's part of the vetting process. There's so much to learn there, but just logistics planning skills is a skill that you can acquire, but just know that that's a key one. And that's where I talked about willingness to learn. Never close your mind off to think that you know it all, because you don't. You never will. I've been in this 16 years and I still don't know it all. So just never stop learning. Compliance, willingness to learn and comply. Depending on what modes you're working in, you need to understand that. If you're shipping dangerous goods, you need dangerous goods training. You need to be aware of what the carriers are. Logbooks. Do you know what a logbook is? In ELD, which is how they do it now, electronic logging device. But you need to understand that the driver's logbook hours, because if a customer says, okay, we got the shipment, and they have specific pickup and delivery times, and you look at it without even calling a carrier, you should know that what the customer is asking for is legitimate, or is it not? You don't need to go to the carrier, because you can go back to the customer saying, even if I have a driver with fresh hours, this cannot be done. So then you can explain it to them in a professional way and suggest some alternatives. Could we pick up a little bit sooner? And that would get us, if we say, could we have it ready sooner, the product ready sooner, then maybe we can still make that delivery. And also with the logistics and the compliance there, one piece to understand is what I mentioned about being the hub. When you're a broker agent, you need to think about so much. if you're doing, for example, construction material and they want this delivered to a construction site, you need to understand that there's, what if there's weather delays, mechanical delays? You're the person in the hub here where, let's say you have to deliver and all of a sudden there's 10 construction people at a job site waiting for this, and they're all getting paid $30, $40, $50 an hour to be at this job site, and they're relying on this truck to show up. So you need to think about this, like, talking to the carrier, making sure the driver does have enough hours, all the factors involved so that you're mitigating the consequences. And you need to also find out what is the consequence. Because I've been in that situation where a customer says, well, your truck was late. We're going to charge you back the labor time for them to wait. So are you willing to get into that, the risk of that? So just know that you need logistics, networking, the compliance, and that's where this comes in, because safety is vital. We never want our drivers to drive unsafe or do anything that they're forced to. So it's our job to manage customers' expectations and match up the carriers. And if we can't match them up, we have to negotiate with our customers to find a solution that's a win-win for all parties. And then I cannot emphasize enough the technology skills. It's constantly changing. Again, staying open, willingness to learn. If you know how to use, Windows 1997 or whatever it was, the old versions, you really need to get yourself up to like Office 365 and using Google Docs and Google Slides. You need to be able to use multiple programs, and I'll do a separate video that explains some of the key productivity tools to help a freight broker agent out. But just know that how fast could you turn on a computer and log in with TeamViewer? Do you know what TeamViewer is? How comfortable are you with that? Can you create a Zoom call? Can you create an Excel or Word documents and PowerPoints? So whatever your skill set, if you're not there, take the time and start to develop those skills. So look at this list of 10 skills. How many do you have? How comfortable are you with them? And then start setting yourself up to be successful. And one last piece here is basically, what pathway will you take to become a successful freight broker or freight broker agent? So hopefully you enjoyed this bonus section to the video. Again, leave any questions, comments, and we'll catch you on the next one.